Good morning. Welcome to Tambarara. We're here at Morgan & Co. And today we have a very exciting guest, Justice Bgoni, CEO of the ZSE. And he'll be joining us very shortly. Stay tuned. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Tambarara. My name is Cornelius Mubi. I'm joined by my colleague, Tinashe Makamure. And today we have a special guest, the CEO of the ZSE, Justice Bgoni. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you, gentlemen.
So I think we're just going to get straight into it. So I think everyone wants to know what your background is, how you came to be where you are today.
Okay. I've been here for 3 years now, so it feels like I've been everyone knows my background. So in terms, I was born in Zimbabwe and grew in Zimbabwe. So I qualified as a chartered accountant in Zimbabwe. Then I left to go to South Africa. So I was in South Africa for 10 years. So I worked in South Africa, various roles in South Africa. Then after South Africa, I then went to New Zealand for another 10 years. Then I came to Zimbabwe to be the CEO of the Stock Exchange. Background, I'm a CA, I'm a chartered accountant, so that's my background. I'm a finance person.
What brought you back to Zimbabwe from New Zealand initially?
It's for this job, for this role as ZSE, because of my work that I did in New Zealand, where I was on the New Zealand Stock Exchange. Therefore, that's they trained me, and they said if I wanted to come back, so I came back.
Yeah, no, that's great to hear your background, Justin. Obviously, again, being the CEO of the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, again, obviously, and as we get into 2022, I think it's always good to look back into 2021. Okay. What would you say were your successes or things you could have built upon, based on what happened in 2021?
So I think the big one, which was a combination, was the retail participation. And it's not at a level that we want, but at least we thought the awareness of investing on the stock market really grew in 2021. And the other thing as well that helped us because of the retail participation is that there was a feeling that we had that there was a lot of counters, especially the small counters, that were very undervalued. And we were getting murmurings that those companies were then thinking, why should we remain listed? And the retail participation, we went on those counters quite a lot. And the valuation of those counters, I think, is much more reasonable now than they were. So I think that's one thing that we're quite proud of. I think the second one is I think we thought VFX got a bit more traction than before. We have 4 listings now. And those who know listings in Africa, they know it's very difficult to build an exchange, and it's very difficult to get listings. And getting Caledonia listed, which is an international company, and also not only was it get listed, they raised the money, and they raised more than what they were initially thought they could get. For us, that was a good thing. Then I think the third one was some of the products that we've been working on, like the ETF. We think we are getting much more attraction in ETFs. People are trying to understand, people are understanding it, more listings coming that way. And also some of the products that we do, like the receivables market. We managed to sign two big suppliers now. We now have Edgar's and OK on the platform. We got more financiers on it as well, including DATFest. And we're working with one big bank at the moment to come onto the platform. So we think we're getting much more traction. That is something that we can build on in the new year. And then obviously the other thing was the depository. Despite the difficulties, we have a depository and there are counters on it. And we are clearing and settling every day. So I think those are things that we think we can build on.
And I think you bring up the depositories. Yeah. Of course, I can't go too much into the legal nitty-gritties of everything. Yeah. But I just wanted to know whether you think it's viable to have 2 depositories in a country that's capital markets are not as deep as they could be.
Viable for us. Yeah. I think a couple of reasons why we did the depository. So one is we feel that there's more things that we can do in terms of products. And I won't say much now without giving away my game, but you will see very shortly that we're going to bring in new products on that side. So we believe that there's a space there that people are doing things that they're supposed to do. Then secondly, as an exchange, you need to have those skills in-house. You need to have depository skills in-house, because then you can because if we didn't have those skills, for example, it would have been very difficult for us to do VFX. It's very difficult for us to do the receivables exchange. So it's a skill that we know as an organization we needed to have. So we either we're going to acquire it or develop on our own, but those were important skills that we needed. That's one of the reasons why we did it. Then in our mind as well, I mean, just in terms of efficiency, we really, at the end of the day, given the market, we believe that it's a back office of an exchange. It makes more sense to have it. That's what we believe, but that's our play.
Yes, the synergies you get with having it in-house is so important, again, with efficiency and that sort of thing. And again, you did also mention new products and on both exchanges. So again, going to 2022 and forward, what do you think in terms of future listings on both exchanges, in terms of new products, REITs maybe as well? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so REITs is where I personally believe our growth is going to come from in terms of listings. So property is very important to Zimbabweans. We know that. And if Zimbabweans could find a way of participating on the exchange buying property, we believe that they would participate. What we have now is we have this thing of someone has to list a REIT. The first one, and we believe that if we get the first one, then I think there will be more listings. But the fundamental play is that we know that the pension funds at the moment that have got assets but no liquidity. So we believe that those pension funds, if they can be convinced to bring it on the market, they could. Some of it is, you look at some of the buildings in the country at the moment, they are not because the people don't have money. They are in bad state. If they come and list it that on the exchange, now they can refurbish it, they can get better rental, and everything just improves. So we believe that there's a good play on the REITs. So that's what we think our future is, both on ZSE and on VFX. Then in terms of VFX, at the moment, we believe we are not upfront at the moment. We are at the back. The reason why I say that is that we get a lot of inquiries on VFX, but people are coming to us, not going to them. So we think that at the moment we need to do more work in terms of marketing VFX, because people are talking about themselves. I mean, I was talking to someone who called me, who wanted a meeting, and they told me that the reason why is because the Minister of Mines had told them about VFX and the benefits, which is embarrassing for me, because it's the Minister of Mines who is marketing them when it should be us marketing. So we're going to do some internal reorganization within ZSE and have more people, some people focused on VFX completely. So I think it's getting lost a little bit within the ZSE structure. And we now need to have more and more people, more specialized and more people who more focus on it. So I think there's we can do more in terms of marketing. Then I think as capital markets generally, we are poor at marketing. So I don't know if you know that at the moment brokers are now allowed to market. Yes. But no one has come to us. No one has. As capital markets, we're just not good at market. So I think it just generally as ZSE, VFX, we should do more marketing. People still don't know how to buy shares on VFX. How do you do it? Where do you go? Everything. A lot of questions. We haven't done a good job. Good job of it.
And could you please shed some light on the advertisement by brokers?
Okay.
What is the range that we're allowed to advertise? How do we do it legally without annoying our friends next door?
So I think what's very important is just to there's some disclaimers that you need to put in, which basically says investment is risky. It's not guaranteed returns. I think you should not play and say you definitely will get a return of 10%, whatever the case may be. I think that's the main thing. I think the more I think about it, I think we should just agree as a market on what the disclaimer should be. I think they just agree, they just standardize the weighting. I think once we get that weighting agreed between ourselves and the regulator and Securities Commission, then I think we are okay. Then that's just a disclaimer that we put in and we do that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Because again, like getting retail investors more and more to this, like with the stock exchanges, the stockbrokers advertising themselves is very important. It also brings a lot of liquidity into the market as well, especially with the small account as you mentioned. And just going forward, how do you actually hope to further address the liquidity issue, especially on the VFX?
Okay, all right. So on the VFX, so we thought initially that one of the reasons why let me step back a little bit.
Right.
Fundamentally, we know we have a problem on VFX in terms of liquidity. And it's very simple. People have US dollar assets, they are not selling. so people are saying, this is my US dollar asset, so I've got an asset now that keeps value. Why should I sell it? So especially institutions, they are not selling. So because institutions are the ones that provide a lot of liquidity on ZSE.
Yeah.
So I know that fundamentally we have a problem. Then the second fundamental problem that we had was the portfolio issue. So when you've got very few counters, if I sell my shares and I have nowhere else to buy, yes, or how do I compare to say this is overvalued or undervalued? You need different. So that's one of so we think as we get more counters, so people then the portfolio play comes in. You can then say, okay, I want to move my portfolio, I want to change. Then in terms of money, we're hoping that people will realize one day that, oh no, I need money, but I've got a US dollar asset, let me sell and all that. Then ultimately, obviously, we want to be able to bring in foreign investors. That's where we think the ultimate liquidity will come in. But I think they also want to see it working first with locals so that they can have comfort. Yes, and have comfort.
And has the issue in terms of foreign investors getting money out of the country been addressed? Because I know there was a certain issue.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a different issue between ZSE and VFX. Yeah. So on VFX, they can get their money. Okay. So that's no problem. I mean, and if you look at the guidelines issued by the Reserve Bank, as soon as the person has sold their shares and the money is in their account, which happens because we do the clearing and settlement, it hits their account, they can take it out, they don't need Reserve Bank approval. Okay. It's actually in the guideline. I know, that's why I said we are not marketing.
That's a very important point.
Yeah, same with dividends. If their dividends goes in, remember it's in hard currency anyway, it hits their account, the bank can send it out. They don't need so on VFX, that's fine. On ZSE is the usual. They have to join the queue at the Reserve Bank. There's sometimes backlog in terms of the money coming out. Like everyone else, the issue of the backlog. So on ZSE, no, we haven't solved it. But it's not just us. I think it's a country issue. It's a country issue, and that obviously makes it very. There was a time beginning of the year where we were doing very well. And I was saying this joke that there was one foreign investor who told me that you can get more money in Zimbabwe than in Nigeria. First time when we were better than Nigeria. Yes, we were better than Nigeria. But the fundamental problem that we have, which, if I'm being honest, is the issue of current of rates. So if you are a foreigner and you are coming in and you want to buy on ZSE, what rate you come in? You have to use official channels, or you're coming in at the official rate, and that's the problem. The problem is that you are not incentivized then to come in because there's different rates. There's more incentive to go out because the going out, you are going out on the official rate. So if you think about it fundamentally as a foreigner, I'm a foreigner. What makes sense? Going out makes more sense than coming in, because when you come in, depends on how you think about it, your value halves. It halves, right? You're coming in at whatever rate, 105, and you buy at 105. When someone would come in and then use the black market and they come in at 200 and buy, so so the incentive to come in as a foreigner then just gets low, right? But it's easier to go. It makes more sense to go out because you're going out you're not going out at 200, whatever. You're getting out at the 100. So we have a fundamental problem.
Okay, so that gap between the bank rate and the black market rate narrows, we should see more.
No one likes the currency to stabilize more than capital markets, because when the way we are now, the capital markets then becomes difficult. You get all these funny things, anomalies that just makes it more difficult. That's the issue.
Just building on to that point and slightly moving on, what's the sort of opinion going forward for companies like Old Mutual and PPC, where that are dual listed and had like some sort of arbitrage? What do you think is going to happen to those in the next coming year, if anything's going to happen at all?
Okay, so I am, without giving away much, I'm optimistic that there will be a solution. Okay. So I think we have to be honest with each other. The chance of them coming back on ZSE just creates problems. I don't see that happening. So we have to find a way of having them, if it's to come on VFX. We have to find a way. So I think it's the situation that whether that's the conversation. We have to find a way. But for them to come back on ZSE with all those things that happened, it's not good for all of us. It's not good for us. It's just so I don't think that's happening.
Okay, no, that's
right. But we're having continuous discussion. There are ways. I think there's a way. There's a way.
And I wanted to ask about how our regional relationships with other stock exchanges, because as brokers, we'd also like to be able to trade other securities and gain exposure, to also get two-way traffic for them to invest in our securities as well.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
No, with other exchanges, we've got a good relationship. We are part of like an association, especially for this Southern Africa. Yeah, certainly. We remember we signed an agreement with Botswana. Unfortunately, COVID made it not that's where things went wrong. So I think if things would stabilize again, we'll go away with Botswana. Botswana makes more sense for us to work with, to start with. They're ambitious, they're looking for growth, and because when that happened, so we wanted to find a way of making it easier for companies to list on both exchanges. And I think we'll still continue talking to Botswana.
Alright, right. I mean, that's probably what made it easier for Citco International to
Just a short break.
Coming back to retail investors, do you guys have any initiatives on investor education?
So we wanted to do quite a lot of things, but COVID has been the problem. We think physical meetings are better. So we really wanted to hit the schools hard. So if there's the Investor Protection Fund and money set aside for investor education. You can see a little bit of that happening now, but there's a lot of money that was set aside for that. And just COVID, just because we think that we should hit the universities in particular hard and schools hard. Because I think we need to just do a lot of work because that's where you get a group of people together that in future can become your market. So that's what we want to do. But now knowing that we hope COVID is coming to an end and was dying down, so we can do more things. So definitely we're gonna go around schools, especially universities, and just tell people how to do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. Especially with so many new products coming up and the market growing, it's important to have investors that have incentives to be in the market and also be very educated and know how to work like that.
Because what we're finding out is we are finding out that we're getting traction on Twitter,
right?
But not anywhere else.
Okay.
So I think we are doing something not right.
Okay.
Because we need to find a way of getting to some people that are not on Twitter, and there are very few. There are very few people that are on Twitter. So that whole crowd that is not on Twitter, we are not there. It's not working. So we can do more. Maybe do more radio, do more things. So we'll see.
Yeah, because we seem to be more of a Facebook country, and Facebook is contaminated with other marketing and other information.
But we don't get any traction on Facebook. I mean, it's not just us. I mean, I've seen other people try as well. I've seen what IPF was saying to me. When if we put an advert that you're trying to advertise on Twitter and on Facebook, the traction is completely different.
Right.
It's completely different. More on Twitter.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Then again, just speaking about the market in general, I did actually want to ask you a question about the whole, I'm sure we all know the whole cassava situation, the results. What are sort of your plans in terms of improving company transparency and avoiding this sort of situation in the future going forward?
Okay, so to be fair to companies, I mean, let's look at the environment. Why companies struggle to get accounts on time. Sometimes it's circumstances beyond their control. There is an issue in terms of getting auditors, and the three things in particular that struggle. So the first one is, which I don't know which one do you blame. The auditors claim that the skills have gone in companies to produce the accounts. The companies say the auditor the skills have gone. So I think let's just accept that general thing. I think financial skills there's shortage of financial skills in Zimbabwe. So that's one of the things that delays the accounts coming. Then secondly as well is we find out more and more that sometimes the decisions are made elsewhere. So what happens is audit firms, before they finalize the audit report, they have to get it approved mainly in South Africa. Okay. So that increases the delay in terms of just getting accounts out. Then there's complexity in Zimbabwe. I mean, there's IAS 21 with the current issue. There are things that are just more difficult. What rate to use in your accounts? And that leads to how do you value property? So these are things that just the environment makes it difficult. So just to couch it in terms of the environment, why it is difficult. Then the other thing, then you then say, we need to find a way of making it more difficult or penalize companies so that there's an incentive for them to produce on that. So there are things that we're working on where we make it much more difficult. But I know they try. I know they try. The environment is just difficult.
And also just to add on that, would you say like every company will be treated the same as cassava in the same situation, even means less liquidity on the stock market. Like if Delt was in that situation, would it have been suspended as well? If Econet was suspended, if like your top 5 companies were all suspended.
I mean, cassava is
cassava is
a top company.
It's
a top company. It's a top
But
company.
not like just liquidity in terms of like the most liquid companies, if they were to get suspended, like would they still be treated the exact same way?
Same way. Same way. I mean, that's the difficulty of an exchange is whilst we like money, we run an exchange.
Right.
Yes,
So
you either issue there are rules, and if people don't obey the rules, there must be consequences, no matter how big they are. That's what you always balance as an exchange. We don't like doing it. As much as possible, we try to work with the company to make sure that the suspension doesn't happen. We know it's bad for the company, and we know it's bad for our investors. And we are happy that the issue of cassava got resolved quickly. And we thought what we did was the correct thing. It's what the rules said, and we did what we do. But there's no, we don't favor anyone. It's an exchange. And before we did that, they knew the consequences. They knew when it was going to happen. Our regulator knew, so we already spoken to our regulator, and the regulator knew what was it. So we tend to be very transparent about it. But we do what we have to do.
I think you guys dealt with it accordingly. It's precedent for the market as well. And on the subject of new products, so Bitcoin has been making a lot of noise. NFTs, SPACs. Are we going to see any of those in the market? Is it playing ball?
Okay, so in terms of Bitcoin and everything, so as an asset class, we are as comfortable as can be. In fact, we will be issuing a white paper probably sometime this year that we're working on to say how this could work. But it has to be an asset class. So we think the best way to do it is probably then it's going to be an ETF. So we think if someone came up with an ETF which is got currencies, and I think the problem, then the thing issues as a market is how are we going to deal with it? But it can't be. So it means it's contained within that. So if you want, you can go in and out of that, but you can't take the Bitcoin out. So that's what is important. It can be a currency. So we're comfortable with that. In terms of Spike, we did issue a paper on Spike. So that I think for comment. So if someone came up with a Spike now, we'll do it. But I think, in terms of the ETF Bitcoin, it has to be on VFX, not on ZSE. So we don't see it on ZSE. No, I think it makes more sense on VFX.
VFX, And you must be very excited us releasing our ETF. I think CB said it's very soon, but normally us releasing the ETF. It's a good start of the year.
It's a very, very good start of the year. And we have, as I said, now the issue what rates now. Rates is where we think
again, like you mentioned before, we just need the first one and then get the ball rolling.
Then we'll get more. Because there's a lot of properties in this country that are sitting there.
I guess from my end, that's all the questions I had for you, Justin.
Okay.
Anything else to add?
Just your 2022 outlook and your main goals and objectives for the year.
So in 2022, I think there are 3 things that we're working on. So I think the first one is we're on record. We're going to try to list ZSE itself on the exchange. So I think it's one of the big things that we are working it on this year. I think it's important that it's ZSE. We always believe that ZSE is a public asset, and I think it's important that the whole public is to share it. So I think that's one thing. Then the second thing on VFX is, besides new listings, we are very keen to do a commodity exchange. So commodity exchange probably is one thing that we're going to put a lot of effort this year. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be difficult, but we're going to try to do a commodity exchange. So I think that's the second thing. And I think the third one is we felt last year that we might have neglected ZSE itself a little bit. So we want to put effort in ZSE itself in terms of just making that market a focus and make it grow. I think in terms of new products like REITs and more ETFs, I think getting more listings, and so we still believe that there are some companies that could come list on ZSE. There were few that we were working on last year, and I think we could bring them over hopefully. So I think we just need to make sure that ZSE itself, we don't neglect it. So we just need to find a way that we get. I think those are the 3 main things that we for 2022.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here, Justin.
All right.
Yes, thank you for being here as usual. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys in our next episode of Tambarara.